Okay, and I believe we are live. Yes. Connor Winsdale is here. Yes, thank you, man. Please bear with us. I hope everything from a live stream perspective is okay. This is completely new for us. We've never done a kind of broadcast live stream on YouTube before, so we're kind of, we're trying to figure out what we're doing. But I believe things are working. If you could just drop in the comments if everything's okay on your side.
Yeah.
That would be great, just to give us a bit of an indication that everything's working fine before we get started.
Let us know that our mics are working and whatnot.
Hello, Claire. Thank you very much for joining, guys. Thank you so much for being here today. This is something that we are... Nervous is an understatement.
I wonder if the serial disliker will come along.
The serial disliker?
Yeah. We got
audio sounding good, picture clear. Thank you so much. I'm really, really glad to hear that.
Thank you, Richard.
Been working for the last 4 hours trying to make sure we can get it sort of to be the best it can be. Yes, hello, Connor. How are you doing, man?
I haven't. I've just been drawing.
He's just been drawing. If you haven't seen it, I think we posted it on the group. Hello, Sophie.
So where does that go then? Does it not go on here?
It was on the thumb. It was on there. Okay, so you two you two look hotter than Stephen Strange and Tony Stark.
Excellent.
Brilliant. Thank you, man.
I've always really resonated and connected with Tony Stark.
Really?
He tries to do good and love and whatnot, but has got a naturally destructive nature and causes chaos wherever he goes and breaks everything.
Yeah, pretty much.
That resonates with me.
So, guys, let's... Lauren and Jesse. Wow. That's incredible. Guys, thank you so much for joining. This is a first for us today. As you know, over the last couple of weeks, we've been in a bit of a crazy headspace. We've been trying to figure out who we are, and with everything that's happened, we think we have started to piece a lot of our life together. And so we want to share this with you now as we sit in a time where everything is difficult and changing, and there's a lot going on in the world. I think the thing that we want to show is that by following your heart in life rather than your head, by following what's true to you rather than what other people think is true to you, you will actually find your purpose and why you're here. There is stuff here. There are certain names that we're not going to mention due to just for confidential
Patient
reasons.
confidentiality.
Yeah. Patient confidentiality.
No, it's just we only want to share the aspects of the stories that apply to us, but of course we want to be careful. We're not going to disclose anybody else's lives.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's difficult to know where to draw the line, because obviously throughout life you become entangled in other people's stories and they become entangled in yours. Mm-hmm. But we're going to make sure not to bring other people and their names and their lives and their experiences into ours, or share that live. So we're really going to try and keep this.
There's a lot. There's a lot in this that is obviously quite sensitive, and for that reason, we just feel that it's right. And again, we also iterate that this story isn't about. It's not about us. It's about the actions that happened within it that we hope that you take away. I'm so nervous. Oh God. Are you feeling that?
That's the ego that's nervous, isn't it?
Yeah. Whoa. Okay. So let's go back to the beginning.
How far back?
Back in time.
My birth.
Yeah. So
that was a fun time.
People may or may not know that Danny and I are brothers. But how that came about was actually quite odd. The day before my 18th birthday, I was taken to the pub by my father. And I remember sitting down with him, and he said he had to have a talk with me. And I didn't know what it was about at the time. I just thought, oh, you're going to give me the...
This sounds all serious.
Yeah.
He's going to talk about the birds and the bees on your 18th birthday. Bit late, Dad. Already done it, mate.
And he said, did you know you've got another brother? At which point, like, the world just froze. I was like, what? Like, what do you mean? And he said, you have a brother called Danny. And say hello. And it was quite a surreal moment to realize that there was someone else that you're blood with technically, but you've never met before. Like a whole new family member just dropping into your life out of the blue. And it was quite, after that, I remember going home to my mum, and she gave me a hug, and she said, are you okay? Because she knew exactly the talk. Now, I was the youngest in the family, so I was the last one to know. So my entire family knew about this before me.
They're there. They've come.
Oh.
Serial disliker.
Hey,
it must be the same one.
It's the serial disliker. We've got a guy who like dislikes every single video. He's like our little disliker. We're like, hey, there
and
he
now,
is.
like, I feel like a video is not complete if I don't see that dislike. I'm like, well, why hasn't he disliked this one? Why?
You are welcome to, we appreciate you, serial disliker, whoever you are. So I'm just going to turn this down a bit, guys, because I feel like it's clipping slightly. So it was...
That camera looks very wonky.
Oh, we're just going to have to go with it. We're just going to have... We'll
it's
explain.
Gone down wonky. Let's see when it comes up. It's quite a delay in comparison to Instagram and Facebook Live, isn't it?
It is, because it's a broadcast.
What's the difference?
Anyway. So I learned about Danny. He was a brother that I never realized I had before. However, there was a time where I really wanted to find out who he was, but I realized that I couldn't because I didn't know where he was, what his position was, and all of that kind of stuff.
Probably wouldn't have even known my surname at that point, would you?
No, I think I did. I think he did say bachelor, but I think he thought that you lived in Essex for some reason.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, then it kind of got left, and I just thought every day, like, who is this guy? What does he look like? All these kind of questions. But this is when I will pass the mantle over to you to...
Oh, okay. So the interesting part is, I wonder now how you must have known my surname. I'll get to that in a moment. Okay. So, obviously, one day I was born. That happened. Came out with a spray can and a steering wheel. Mummy, I want to drift and graffiti. Not really. I can't believe I had to say not really. I think it's quite obvious that was not the case. Anyway, I digress. Is that the word? So, where do I go from there? Right, so I grew up in a nice family household, great parents, absolutely amazing parents. Thought everything was hunky-dory. And I remember at the time I had a friend next door who his dad wasn't around, and he had a stepdad, and I found the concept fascinating. I was like, what? So your dad does it? I mean, I'm very young at this point, somewhere between sort of 4 and 6 years old. Somewhere between 6 and 8 years old. And he's completely cool and comfortable with it. And he explains that his dad left his mum, and he's got a stepdad now. And I was like, wow. And I remember thinking, that's really strange. And then the more I started to sort of look into it and whatnot, I started to hear from school friends, oh, yeah, my dad don't live at home either. Yeah, no, my mum's got a new boyfriend. Yeah, that's normal. Yeah. And I was like, whoa. And it started to appear everywhere. And I was like, wow, I've just grown up with just a mum and dad. Like, no, cool. I'm really lucky, you know. And then eventually, the time came where my parents felt that I was mature enough to, you know, take this new information on board, and that I would understand, and that it was a good time. We were just about to move to Devon, if I remember correctly, from London. So it's going to be this big fresh start. And, you know, my parents, my mum and my dad thought this is the time to tell him before we go. So out it came. And they said, we have to tell you that your dad is not your real dad. And I was like, what? What? And then they showed me a photo. This is your real dad. And there was a photo of this guy holding me. And I was like, oh, who's that man? And I remember my reaction at the time was, obviously I cried a lot. I was quite young. And I was like, no, I don't care. I don't care who this man is. My dad is my real dad. And then, oh yeah, I remember my dad was out the room at the time because obviously they thought it'd be best that I wasn't told that in front of him.
When did that change? When did you get to the point where you were like, because obviously the part of the story where you went to go looking, what changed?
So I grew up most of my life just saying, don't care, my dad is my dad. He's, you know, I've known him from birth. Well, I've known him from as young as I can remember, so that's the way it is. But the more time went on, and, you know, we kept talking, my mum and I, and I'd, every now and then, out of the blue, maybe once every 3 months or once every 6 months, I'd ask a question. So this guy then, like, what's he like, and things like that, and I'd get inquisitive. And one day I thought, hang on a minute, if this guy's moved on, he could have gone and started another family. I could have brothers or sisters, more of them, cousins. And then my mum was telling me a story about my nan and whatnot, and I was like, I want to know these people. Why have I left it all this time? And by this point, I think I must be 24. So I really thought, right, now I'm going to start looking. So I started tracking down on Facebook, and I had a friend at the time who was an heir hunter, you know. Basically, when someone dies and have a load of estate to inherit down to, you know, to pass on to their younger generations and whatnot, but they're out of contact, the heir hunter will find that estate and then try and find family members to pass it on to, and obviously take a commission from that and whatnot. That's their job. There was a TV program about it. So I had a friend like that who did that job, and I was like, help me find, you know, pick out names and whatnot. And I was going through Facebook frantically, and then I stumbled upon a cousin.
Yeah, I remember, yeah.
Messaged her, and I thought, is she my sister? Is she my cousin? I don't really know. And then I stumbled upon this guy. And I was like, okay. So and I started trying to piece it all together myself. And then eventually the time came where I was like, you know, I need to reach out and see what's on the other side. I want to understand, you know, more about the genetics of where I'm from, because at the time I was really interested in the nature-nurture argument, you know, how much of your life is influenced by upbringing and how much of your life is influenced by genetics. So I was fascinated by that, and hence the reason I wanted to go and find out more about the genetics side.
So I
pinged you a message.
16th of August 2014 at 8:20, I got a message that said, hello there. I don't know if you've been told about me yet, but I am, sorry, we won't say the name, son from a previous relationship to the one with your mother. I believe is your dad too. Is that correct? If so, that would make us half brothers. Smiley face. I know this may be a lot of information to take in and understand if you choose not to act upon it or reply, but I've got to the age now where I'm beginning to wonder about who I am and where I come from and stuff. So I've decided to make contact. I also hear from that you are a beatboxer too, which I find fascinating as I've been beatboxing for 8 years, lol. I hope to hear from you soon, but no pressure. And I remember when I received that, it was like I saw his face for the first time, and like the whole world flipped. I felt different. I felt something change. Like I felt something change deep inside me, and I can't remember. Like I can't put my finger on what it was, but now it makes sense. But it was such a surreal feeling. But anyway, when you first reached out, we just started talking, and then we met for the first time.
Yeah.
So you came down to Maidenhead, where I was living at the time, and we met. And I remember being in that car park, and I went down, and we gave each other the biggest hug, and it just felt amazing. Like probably, I dare to say, it's probably one of the nicest hugs I think I've experienced in my life, which sounds like quite a mad thing to say, but it really felt like that. It felt like you were so special, and I couldn't put my fingers on it, but you were so special. And so we spent that whole weekend, and we made music, and we dicked about, and we were like, you were teaching me beatboxing, weren't you? Remember when we were in the flat, and you were teaching me how to beatbox, and it was just a really special moment and a really special time.
And it just felt like there just wasn't enough time. There was like, no matter how much time we were given, it just wasn't long enough, because there was so much catching up to do, and so much learning and understanding and processing of the entire thing. There just wasn't enough time. It was
But then we fast forward, so maybe say we had quite a good relationship over the next couple of years, and eventually Danny became reunited with our dad, and it was lovely. It was lovely to sort of bring you back into the family, and that was very, very special. And then I moved to Manchester.
Yeah.
In 2015, I believe, end of 2014, beginning of 2015.
Yeah.
And you lived in Lowestoft, and I lived in Manchester, so we were always apart. And I remember when we went to go see each other, it was never enough. Like we booked off whole weeks off work, and we just went and like literally just spent this time together, because we just couldn't get enough of each other's like time. It was just
knowledge, creativity, expression. You know, it was always like we had 1,000,001 things to do, and we couldn't decide which one to do next and which one to do first. And you know, it's at that time we flicked between activities so quickly, because we just wanted to do all.
Everything. So as a bit of a background, we are both very creative people at heart. Like I've always been very creative. I've built websites and done like game design and media studies and all of this kind of stuff, and I just love creativity. And Danny's been exactly the same, you know, either doing Photoshop or graffiti or your stuff with cars and things like that.
The barbering and tattoo design, and it's always been an equal passion.
But I appreciate this is just the get-go. We'll explain how to get comfortable, all right? Because this has so many layers to it. It's mad. But anyway, we'll sort of fast forward over the next couple of years. Our relationship grew, and let's go to when I was going through a relationship at the time, and I remember you were like, this is not right, and this, that, and the other. You could see it before I could.
Yeah.
But I think at that moment, we became stronger. But the thing that I take from that relationship is the first time that I started to really be creative again, because I spent a lot of my time in IT, office jobs, all of this kind of stuff. and I just was not getting satisfaction from it. I just feel so alone, depressed, I mean, there were wonderful moments, but as a whole, it was kind of like that. And I think for the flip for you, you were also kind of
whilst you had the girlfriend in Manchester.
Yeah, and I was working for the IT company and stuff.
I can't actually remember that part of my life. That's blurry. What the hell was I doing then?
Well, to be fair, so what happened is I was getting more into my music, and with a friend, I decided to create a record label called Coaction Records. And that was the first time that I thought, can you take a creative idea and actually build a life with it? And more importantly, can you take a creative idea and build a life that doesn't just benefit you, but others? And you were involved at the time, but there was something off. There was always something off with it. And I remember you saying, you were like, it shouldn't be you two, it should be us.
Yeah, I remember saying, I'm getting jealous here. Like, I really thought that we would do something. I respect that you guys have got to do what you got to do and stuff, but I can't help but feeling like, I don't know, maybe if we were running this as a 3 or something, but just the fact that you two guys are running it and I'm down here, I don't know, I'm just a bit jealous, man.
Yeah. But it was there's to give you also a bit of a background in terms of our personalities. Danny is very detail oriented. I'm very architecturally oriented. And I think, you know what, just as a pause, I want to really make sure it's very clear at the moment that, because we spent a lot of time wondering this ourselves, you should not discredit, or beat yourself up for being who you are. We'll explain going forwards, but I just wanted to put that there because it is one of the biggest criminal things that you can do to yourself in life, is to think that you're wrong or broken or damaged, or, you know, just because you don't fit in with other people. And I think we both felt like that because we were both different in our own ways. But what I'm going to do is sort of skip forward.
I do still feel elements of that.
Yeah. But I think
obviously it's going to take time to work on.
Yeah.
In terms of love life and things, you know, I do still feel that way. But we'll get to that. We decided, so I broke off Coaction Records with my friend and was going to start making it with Danny. And then what we'll call the descent happened in both of our lives. That is when some people knew me to have started 10 times more and putting the video out about quitting my job to follow passion and creativity. Now, when you do that, of course, you're going to run out of money because I just had a voice in the back of my head that says, this is not you, quit your job. And it was like, it was there. It was a voice in the back of my head, and it's like I couldn't control it. I had to write my resignation, and I had to get out. But I didn't know where I was going. It was one of the scariest things ever. But if we flip to your side and where you were at the time, I'll let you explain this bit. It's probably better. Yeah, so I guess I was in a job which kind of didn't really fit my lifestyle, much like yourself, you know, but I kept going and working because everybody needs money, right? And I felt like I was in a place of not knowing if I was doing the right thing, if I was in the right place, where the hell I was going, you know, what my life looked like. I felt like I was in a place of kind of stagnancy. Is that a word? It is now.
Yeah.
Stagnancy. And I couldn't find happiness, true happiness, you know, like real happiness. I was blowing loads of money on cars to try and seek that happiness. I think at the time I'd something like 11 cars, I think, or maybe 12, or some of those were half owned with friends and were projects and things like that. Half owned cars and whatnot. Buying all sorts of material items and crap, and none of it was really doing the job deep down. So it was a real state of not knowing who I was, where I was going, what my purpose was. I was sinking into disgusting amounts of debt. I was earning tons of money, sometimes 2.5, 3.5 grand, 4 grand a month, take home after tax, and then still ending up another 500 quid deeper into an overdraft and going, well, hang on a minute, where's it all going? So unfortunately, I at that time I was heavily reliant on alcohol, as I guess probably a form of escapism from the pain I was experiencing at that time, and the confusion and the feeling that life is just shit. Because I couldn't see any beauty in life at all anymore. As much as I tried, and I, loads of close and supportive friends around me, they had their own lives too, and I tried to make the effort, but there was, because of this thing missing inside me, nothing. I couldn't really appreciate what was around me properly, because I felt that I had this void inside me, and I couldn't work out what the hell it was. And of course, I just kept drinking and drinking and drinking and drinking and blowing obscene amounts of money on alcohol. Fortunately, I managed to stay functional enough to do my job. So obviously, I would not drink before or during work. But the moment I left that workplace, it was the first and only thought on my mind was alcohol, until the point where I think I was drinking anything up to 18 pints a day and getting shots of Captain Morgan's or Southern Comfort and topping up my pints with it to spice it up a bit and get the job done. At the time, that was the mindset. Because you can only drink so much lager before you're bloated, before you're drunk. So of course, with all of that alcohol, there was a lot of mental health difficulties. I was back and forth from psychiatrists and whatnot. I was put on all sorts of myriad of different medications, antidepressants, from sertraline, fluoxetine, etc., etc., etc. The list goes on, and nothing was working. They were like, give it time, and they would increase dose until I was on the maximum dosage of that antidepressant, and it was still doing nothing. And they kept saying, what's the alcohol's fault? The tablets aren't working. And of course, I couldn't get off the alcohol at the time. And it was all just spiraled out of control, and it was
and then
mess.
On March 31st.
March 25th.
March 25th, I do apologize.
Yeah, so I woke up at 6:30 a.m. and it was a day off work. 6:30 a.m. and I had half a can left beside the bed and 2 more complete cans where obviously I'd been drinking and passed out. And I hit the drink 6:30 a.m. and by 9:30 a.m. I'd down 11 pints, and I was in such a state of aloneness and misery that I attempted to end my own life via overdose. Fortunately, the person in my life at that time had a lot of knowledge in mental health and stuff, and she detected something incorrect. I'd said something in a message which made it blatantly obvious to her that I was going to attempt, and she raced home, called the ambulance, found me unconscious, not breathing, laying in a pool of my own urine, and she resuscitated me, and of course I was rushed to hospital. I believe I apparently came in and out of consciousness, and at some points I was actually awake and talking, although I don't remember any of that, of course.
I remember at the time, to anybody who was watching 10 Times More, you may have remember a video called Burnout, where I talked about suicide.
I still haven't watched it.
And he still hasn't watched it. And of course, some people may have figured it out, but it was about Danny, because I was working away, sort of cracking on with building 10 Times More, trying to think about where I was in life. But I was at home at the time, and I was really between, am I going mental and losing the plot here, or am I onto something? And it's a really scary time when you're in that, because you have to, you feel so alone. And I was back at home with my parents, and my parents were saying, like, this is not the way to live, blah, 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 blah. This is what you need to do. And I was just kind of like, no, I'm going to go and do this. So, of course, they probably thought I was a bit whack at the time. But I remember receiving a message from my cousin who said, have you seen Danny's Facebook? And you put out basically a
status.
Note.
Yeah. So I'd taken the overdose and then thought, fuck, I haven't said goodbye to anyone, and just threw out a status.
And I remember reading it, and I was like, it was just the most, it just, all I remember is dropping everything that I did. I went and grabbed my car keys, and I'm like, I'm going now, and I'm going to Lowestoft. Like, I'm going, there was just, and I remember getting to the hospital, and oh man, there's a reason we don't talk about this shit. You were just like a zombie. Like you know what I mean. You weren't. Some
said a shell of a man.
Yeah, you were sort of
where I used to be, kind of thing.
And I remember I sat in the room with your family, and it was talking about, you know, what do we do to help you at this point?
Was that in the hospital? Or was that
in the hospital
or the acute unit?
In the hospital.
Okay. Obviously, a lot of this is very blurry for me, so I can't remember who was there, who said what. I can't piece together what happened when.
Yeah.
So did you come up the same day?
I came up the same day, and right. I rushed straight up, and a friend of mine, a very good friend of mine, stayed on the phone with me all the way, because I could barely drive. Like, the funny thing is, I don't usually get too worried about people, and it's just the way I am. But Danny was different, and it paralyzed me, and I couldn't understand why. But it just, it was tough. It was tough. But obviously, what Danny was going through was very tough as well. And there was decision for you to go to an acute unit.
Yeah, I remember them. I remember that bit. I remember them saying, we have this opportunity. We think this is best for you. Are you going to voluntarily accept this help? Or does other things have to be done? And I was like, and I looked out the crack in the door, and there was 2 police officers, and they were like, if you don't accept the help, there may be some potential force used, and there is something called sectioning, but of course we don't want that for you. And they were trying to be really gentle, but basically in a roundabout way they were saying, either accept this help and go in the acute unit, or we're sectioning you and forcing you in the acute unit. So either go graciously or go down fighting, pretty much. And I was like, I don't want the help. I don't want it. I don't want it. Because, of course, when I'd become conscious again in the hospital, I was so annoyed that my life had been saved. I asked if I could go to the toilet. They let me go to the toilet alone. I locked myself in, took the cord out of my tracksuit bottoms, and had formed a ligature around my neck and tried to strangle myself to death again. Of course, I had a friend there at the time. Of course, I'm not going to mention names. Who unfortunately had to find me in that state. he'd managed to unlock the door, I believe, with a coin in the little slit, and they came in and I don't know, either cut it off or untied it or whatever. And at that stage, they thought this guy is not well at all, and he needs some serious help. And that's how they came to the conclusion, right, he's going to have to go in an acute unit and be looked after properly. Otherwise, it's probably not going to turn out very good.
So you ended up going to
I
the
accepted
acute
the
unit.
help. Yeah, I accepted the help. I went into the acute unit. I remember craving alcohol very badly, so I did some things. I'm obviously, again, not proud. I'm not proud of any of it at all. Of course, I still brings up large levels of guilt, which I'm still in the process of trying to deal with and taking myself back to forgive myself.
Can I just pause very quickly? Just a wonderful message from Connor there. I'm so sorry about all this. The positive thing about that you got through everything and you're still together. You're both warriors and true inspirations. That's
Thank
lovely.
you. Appreciate that.
That's really lovely.
That helps in times like this.
And thank you to everybody else who's watching and left comments. Sorry if we haven't responded to them.
Let's make an effort to. Of course, if anyone's got any questions,
of course,
we're still, we don't mind interrupting, the flow of the story. We can pop that on pause for a moment and answer questions. If they're related to it or unrelated, doesn't matter. It's cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, other than that, we'll just keep rolling.
So. You spent a couple of weeks in the acute unit. I came to visit you. I went and stayed.
It was a week. Yeah,
a week, and I went and stayed with your mate, didn't I?
Yeah. But I remember I was saying, wasn't I? I did some things I wasn't proud of. Of course, I remember blackmailing a friend to smuggle alcohol into the acute unit. And it was a long, ongoing battle because obviously I was craving so much that I felt like I wasn't there, and it was just like almost like a demon had taken over and was just, it wanted its alcohol and it was gonna get it no matter who it burnt in the process. So I got alcohol smuggled in on the first day. The second day it was point blank refusal. Someone brought me an alcohol-free beer, but so. At that time, the last drink was the 26th of March, the day after. So I didn't drink from the 26th onwards. And then obviously they was like, right, it's time for you to go. I'd been there a week under sedation and all sorts of drugs and whatnot. I assume some sort of detoxing drugs maybe or something that kind of weaned me off the alcohol. So I don't really remember much of my time in there either because of the amount of sedatives I was on. I've spoke to some people since and they've said, wow, that's a lot of sedatives. I understand why you don't remember much of it.
So yeah, you left.
It came time to leave, and then obviously there were problems like, where do I go? Where am I going to get the best care? And all of the family members were talking, and it was decided that the best place for me would be to move down.
Coincidentally,
with your dad,
back in with our dad, which is where I was at the time, because of my whole kind of quarter life crisis escapade, and the thing that I received instructions that my positive outlook on life, so to speak, was not right for Danny. It wasn't right for Danny, and that I was to leave him alone, basically, and keep my distance and be supportive, but don't fill his head with all of the nonsense that goes on in my head, right? And I remember sitting down. Remember the fire? I don't know if you remember the fire. You were just out at the back, and you were making like a fire pit, and I sat down.
Oh, right.
And so, because I'm a stubborn bastard, I decided, you know what, I'm gonna go and talk to him. And I went and sat down, and I remember saying something along the lines of, I want you to know, no matter how low you feel right now, you're going through a process, and you are going to get better, and you are strong, and you can get through this. And that there was always this feeling that when I saw her come back, is that I saw in Danny his, as a lot of people do, but I saw, even though he was this shell, I was like, there is something deeper to him, and I felt like others couldn't see it, but I could, and it was like me questioning, like, am I right or am I wrong, or have I got this right or wrong, and all of this kind of stuff, and so day by day, the parents wanted you to go back into a regular job. You need to get money in, you need to do this, you need to do that, and I sort of started coaxing you my way, and we started to spend a bit of time together, didn't we? And really, I think I wouldn't say I even taught you stuff. I think the only thing I always say this is I just believed in you, and I guess I just tried to share everything I knew, or what I'd experienced at that time. But it was a very surreal sort of moment to be back at home with our parents, but now we were together. It was like, what are the chances? Well, we'll come on to that, but we then continued to do I continued to do the 10 times more stuff, and I kept going up to Manchester because I was working with different businesses at the time, and you were sort of still down south because they were saying that basically this world isn't for you, right?
It was a case of
you need to focus on you, Josh. Danny's Danny. You need to focus on you, Josh.
Yeah,
that was kind of what I got.
I think in the very early stages of my rebuild, of course, I wanted everything to just be very simple, very low pressure, nothing. So it took me back to that place of presence where it was just think about what you want to do today. And obviously they did a lot of good. They were just like, what do you want to do today? Do you want to paint? Do you want to draw? And I was being bought painting materials and drawing materials. No matter what I suddenly wanted to do, I want to make this out of wood. Okay, cool. Right, here's all the stuff to do it. And obviously I'm very thankful for that. So it was all about just keeping everything very basic and very low key. But over time, as I started to, heal and rebuild, about 2 weeks or so, then this inquisitive nature started to come back and go, well, what is Josh doing actually? I like the look of that. And then, as the involvement started to grow, didn't it?
Yeah. And it well, then to the people who saw Danny sort of start to enter the videos at that point, and this new person just kind of like popped up on the videos that I was putting out, and that's the thing, we never explained it at the time. We never said, because it was like, how do you explain that? Like, how do you know what I mean? It just didn't feel right. So just got you involved, and then that's when we went through incredible, I'd say, beginning learning processes together.
That's where you returned home one day and said, I've had this idea.
Oh, yeah.
I've had this idea, like, what if, how there's loads of creative people in the world, and obviously there's loads of creative jobs that kind of need doing, and, we connect with those, we connect with both. Why aren't we creating a collective, like an agency? And it all started to grow from there. That was the very primal, basic form of it, very original form. And I was like, yeah, and then we could do this, and we could do that, and you were like, yeah, and then we could do this, and we could do that, and it all suddenly there was this spark of excitement and energy, and it's like, okay, right, you design a logo then. And I was like, all right, I'll design a logo, and voila, Coaction Collective was born.
He designed a logo, and you called me and you said,
dude, I don't know what I've made here, but I feel something. There's something.
It was, and I remember just looking at it, and it was more than a logo. It just, because when we were designing the logo for Coaction Records, we went through 50 iterations.
Oh, way more.
Because
It was
tons. It just endless.
It was like, it's really good, but could we do this? Could we do that? Does it need cubes in it? Does it need colours in it? Does it need paint splats in it? Could we change the shape? Maybe they make that bit shorter, make the circle bigger, make the circle smaller. Just endless. And we never, ever truly, really settled on a logo, ever, with Coaction Records.
And then that was just like, it just came into existence, and it was just like
perfect.
Done.
And that's
finished.
First time ever of any design that we haven't sat there and picked it apart and what we call chasing the dragon, and tried to find more and make it a bit better, and what if we did this, and et cetera, et cetera. It became and was and has never changed. It is and was and is.
Yeah.
I really need a wee.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
That's fine.
Terrible. You know what my bladder's like? Half pint full up. Has to
I hope.
get out.
So yeah, while Danny's just so to kind of build on that, we spent a lot of time getting to know each other, and I was so keen. Like Danny used to say, I'm not that creative, I'm not that good, or this, that, and the other. I was like, yes, you are. Like, look and see, and try to show. Because even when he was doing his creative activities, he was always so self-critical of them, and it was all about trying to show Danny his kind of creative essence, I guess. And we spent months and months and months at home, but then problems arose when we ended up kind of creating a bit of a divide in the household between, say, mum and dad and me and Danny, because the way me and Danny were thinking, the way Danny and I were thinking was we were thinking about just our heads was like creative, and we were just sort of going, like, we were just playing with life, like not being safe with it whatsoever. Like, we'll just go and do this, we'll just do this, we'll just do this. But they were very much kind of, brought up in an age where it's just like, you need to get a job, you need to be stable, otherwise life is gonna, it's gonna fall from beneath your feet, and you need to be stable and all this kind of stuff. So it ended up creating a bit of a divide, because they were like, where's the money coming from? Where's the money coming from? Where's this? Where's that? But we were like, we just feel like we need to do this. Like, we need to put this stuff out. We need to share this. There was this urge to put this content out. And so we continued to do that. And then I remember we were like, we're going to move back up to Manchester. We're gonna move back up to Manchester together, and we're gonna do this together. And I remember asking Danny at the time, like, how do you feel about this? How do you feel about moving back up to Manchester and continuing this journey? And of course, I don't know at the time how he felt about. Oh, he's coming back. There you go.
Someone told me to grab my laptop. I'm not sure why.
Okay.
So I did. Why not?
Okay. Cool.
That time. Oh, I forgot. I've got to have a microphone, and
Yeah.
I have returned.
That time.
So I got distracted by my dry hands because I couldn't get any hand soap in Tesco yesterday, so I've had to put shower gel in the hand soap dispenser. And
Is there anything at the moment where
dries
do
out.
you guys have any questions? Do you want to add anything? Do you want to use this opportunity to have any input? Because I appreciate we're just rattling off here. There's a lot to cover, and
I think what's happening there is your ego is jumping in and going, I'm scared that people don't want to hear the story.
Yeah.
Because we've all along, we never really thought that this story was of any importance. We just thought, well, it just is. That's just our lives. That's what, like, what's so. But over time, in multiple different events where we've told the story, people have been flabbergasted, like jaw drops on the forum. Like, why are we getting that reaction?
We told it at a conference in London, seminar in London, and there was like just under 1,000 people there. And
so, yeah.
we told them this story, and we were absolutely gobsmacked because people came along and literally just, I think, did they give us like 1,200 quid or something?
It was immediately after an exit. So it was a seminar about teaching you to change your mindset around money.
That's it.
And one of the exercises that they do is they get you to take £100 out of your wallet, walk up to a candle, and go to burn it.
Be careful about the details we reveal here.
Yes.
You want to, people want to.
Yes, I've dug myself a hole there, haven't I?
Yeah, you have. So anyway, there's this exercise. Do you see how it's interesting? Because we'll come to this at the end. Like, the whole point of telling this story is because we've realised huge things about each other in the last couple of days. One of the biggest things is Danny is very detail focused and I'm very architectural focused. So you may notice that sometimes Danny gets lost in the detail and will just dig things down but not move things forwards. And I think about the bigger picture, and
so, for example, when we get on one subject, I could easily fill the rest of this evening just on that one subject and continue to talk about it and pick it apart and think about all the meanings and yada, yada, yada. Whereas you seem to kind of skim over details and rush to the next point and the next point and the next point and the next point. And I'm like, yeah, but what about that little bit? What about that? So we have to find a balance between the two of us, which we've learned to embrace more recently. Which
Sufa said, by the way, I kind of had a feeling this was the story, but I just wanted to till you were both ready to share it together. So proud of you both for sharing.
Thank you so much, Sufa.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
So
at that stage, we then started to realise, it started to slowly sink in that maybe this story is a little bit extra special, possibly. Like, even though still to this day, we can't quite grasp it because it's just normal for us. It's just our lives, and that's just the way it's been. Of course, all the time we keep just revealing little snippets on lives and in stories and whatnot. People ask questions. They ask lots and lots of questions. We get DMs going, hang on a minute, so you're brothers then, like real brothers? And we're like, how's that come about? And so on.
We didn't talk about it because, well, because now is the time to talk about it. That's why we didn't talk about it, you know. But
the universe makes no mistakes.
Exactly. We decided to move up to Manchester together.
Yeah, which was a challenge, and that was huge for me. That was like every part of my ego, I assume. Obviously, I wasn't aware that it was my ego back then, was screaming, no, I just want to stay comfortable and safety, and I want to go and live with my family and all this kind of stuff. And then the other part of me, a deeper call inside myself, said, this is one big adventure and you have no idea what might come along. You better go along for the ride, because this could bring some beautiful things. It might be hard, it might be scary, it might be challenging, but you never know. This is an adventure upon an adventure inside an adventure. And I was like, I love adventures.
Off I go.
And so, I was really 50-50 for a long time. And it was a very difficult, challenging time. And I know during that time you really appreciated that, and you were really non-pressure. You were just like, so about Manchester then?
I don't think I was.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
I don't think I was. I think I was pressure.
Because
if we're gonna talk about this story, we're gonna talk about it honestly, right? There was a lot of friction between. Okay, when we were back at home, there was a point where I was trying to bring Danny into the 10 times more videos and things like that, and there was part of my head that goes, he's going to be successful. He's gonna do well. You're gonna be nothing. He's gonna do well. Blah 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 blah. And I just felt like it was almost like there was this thing that wanted to control Danny because of the fear that if he shone, then I would become insignificant. And I know that sounds awful.
But of course, that's just conditioning.
Yeah, I've just saying this kind of stuff just feels fucking awful that I just.
But remember what I said. everything that has happened had to happen to get us to this point. Every single piece of it played its part and has as much importance as any other piece of it. It all has importance.
The main reason I love you, man. I love you so much.
I thank you for that behavior, because if you hadn't behaved that way, we wouldn't have learned something that made us learn something that made us learn something that got us to this. And I love where we are at now. So I am grateful for that.
I really appreciate that, man.
That's all right, man.
It's a bit that I feel very uncomfortable about, because I was very controlling over Danny, because I feared for my own future based on the fact that maybe it was a feeling that I wasn't special or something like that. And this is how powerful the thoughts in our heads are. And when I was younger, I grew up in that household, and my next brother up had learning disabilities, and my two eldest I didn't really interact with, so I felt very alone, and I was always craving attention. And that rippled throughout my life, and that's when I really started to see it, when I was sort of projecting it onto Danny. There was a lot of like, are you part of this or are you not? And there was this tension, which we kind of got to a balance with. And I think one of the things that's always been difficult is knowing whether Coaction Collective has been mine and you're just following my dream, or whether it's both of ours. And that's always been and it's been something that's been in the back of my head. It's just like, am I just taking this guy for a ride? This guilt, just like, am I just charging off in this direction, and you know, he's just following and I'm just leading him astray kind of thing, which is a really sort of awful thought. But when we moved up to Manchester, so we ended up moving here, which we love. It's an awesome flat, and I remember we put out the Instagram stories. We were really excited, and this business was moving forwards. Things were going well, and that was all happening. But our relationship went through every phase imaginable in the space of 12 months. Like, we did not know, well, not in even 12 months, because it has just been 12 months, but the last 12 months.
All right, I thought you meant, 12 months since we moved here, but we only moved here, that's 5-6 months ago.
Yeah, the 12-month period from the start of when he moved back home, we have been, what we feel, tested severely on each other, and we have driven each other to like really bad places. I think the first thing it started when I became very, very over controlling and very anxious, because that is who I am and what I do. And
part of your maybe your conditioning at the time appears to be that you cannot stand not knowing for definite what's happening, what's going where, and who's with you along the way. Whereas I have a lifestyle of, let's just take each day as it comes and play it by ear and see where we go and see what ends up being what it is. And those two different perspectives battled endlessly for so long, didn't they?
Oh, yeah, they massively
Up until
battled.
this week.
Up until this week, yeah. It was always an absolute fury of fire, because I was like, Danny is very living in the present moment. He's very, very detailed oriented, so he doesn't get up on time. He doesn't care about structure. He doesn't care about this. Whereas I see the bigger picture and I've got anxiety around it, and I'm like, we need to be up at this time and we need to be doing this. We need to be doing this. And I felt like there was this part of my head that was going, Danny isn't, he's not putting his effort in. He's not doing this. He's not doing that. And so I started to become super controlling over you, almost like a boss. And it got really, really, really unhealthy. And we went through several states. When we first moved up, it was, I think we were in the honeymoon period of being in a new flat in a way. Like, we were just like, it was a new flat, it's cool, it's amazing.
Yeah.
And then we went through a lot of tension. and then we got to the end of last year, and I'm pretty confident that I don't think there are very, very few people that know what happened at the end of last year. But I think the reason this is the bit that I think that we're most nervous to talk about, but it's so important because it's that process that's got us to here.
Yeah.
And it was a very, very important part of the process. Of course, we had, I think it's worth mentioning beforehand, just so if we go back to last year, we were making Exiled, the documentary for Skullfades.
Yeah.
And I remember we were moving during the process of Exiled. So when we were at home, we were making it, and we were like, it's like we can't fit this all into a 4-minute video. So should we do it as we should just make a documentary? And I remember at the time, parents were just going, "Where's the money coming from? This is mad. You can't just make a documentary. You can't just do this. Where's the money for it?" And all of this kind of stuff. But we just kept plowing forwards, and we just kept moving forwards, and we were like, we need to make this documentary. It needs to be out. It needs to be out there.
Yeah, we had so much passion in that project.
Yeah, massively.
To do it right the way we wanted it to turn out, that it was just like, don't care. It's just got to be done this way. It's got to be done the right way, and we're going to put everything into it until we get until it looks the way we want, until we get the result.
And so we released that, and we probably reached.
That's the problem, is we had a result in our mind.
We had a result. We built a result in our mind, and we were like, if we just get this out, and don't get us wrong, it was amazing. Like, we had a premiere in Manchester. Mayor of Manchester was there. Our logo was up on the side of a skyscraper. We could not believe our eyes. And yet, after all of that, after like reaching all of that and doing that together in such a short space of time, we ended up completely crashing into what we felt like severe depression. We were completely off kilter.
Yeah.
We were in a bad place.
Because we'd placed all of our happiness on the result of that.
Exactly.
Because we'd built up a picture of, we're going to release this documentary and this is going to happen and people are going to say this and then we're going to get this and all these things are going to happen after, and that will skyrocket our business and that it'll be perfect from there and everything will be great from that point. And then obviously the day comes and it all starts to play out differently, and you're like, hang on a minute, no, this wasn't supposed to be this way, it was supposed to be that way, and they were supposed to be standing there and saying this, and we were supposed to be standing here and saying that, and it was all just, none of it played out the way we'd built this perfect perception in our head of how it was going to be, and it did not follow any of it at all, did it?
Well, it kind of smashed expectations in one way and then dropped in another. But I think that we went through a powerful lesson. And then after that, we were beforehand, well, let's go back to a couple of months before because there was 2 instances. And there was the party that we went to. I've got some mates that I've known in Manchester for quite some time. And they invited us to a party, which was really, really cool. We went, and Danny hadn't been drinking for some time.
I think at that stage, I thought that I was so happy and strong and mentally stable, and I'd been sober for so long. I was like, I think maybe it's time to see if I can drink again, because I'm in a different mindset now. I'm in a much happier place. I think maybe it'll be okay. Or the ego was tricking me. The voice was like, you'll be all right with 1. And then the next day and the day after, I think you'll be all right with 2. Just try getting tipsy. And it's a trick of the mind, an absolute trick of the mind. Sorry, we can't answer that right now because we are on a live. And slowly that began to spiral. You know, it started with 1, and then a couple of days later it was 2, and a few days later it was experimenting with the idea of getting tipsy with some friends, and it seemed okay. And then a few days later it was getting a little bit drunk with friends, and all was okay. And you know, these negative dark thoughts that used to come out with alcohol, they weren't appearing. And oh, maybe I've got this. Maybe I've got this down, you know. So I had like a week or two of drinking here and there, and I tricked myself and tricked everyone around me to believe that actually I've got this down. I've got a handle on it now. I'm in control, and I've got this, and I can behave on alcohol. And you know, so we went to you know, this group of friends party thing, and all started well, and you know, at this point, you know, drinks were flowing. I was like, yeah, I can drink, it'll be fine. Yeah, drinking, and just kept drinking and just kept drinking, and then some things happened that night that had led to me feeling feelings of sort of rejection and things, and then it's almost like those demons kind of returned, unfortunately, and
yeah. And
it went to a bad place of self-destruction again. That's the key theme, is self-destruction. Always reappears.
So this time it was a little bit different, and this was the first time that I actually saw it, because before I only heard about it, but because of the situation that we were in, it was less about killing himself and more about full-on aggression, destruction. He went and he wanted to go and climb a building to impress someone. And it was all about, no, don't do that. And he said, I'm going to do it anyway. So we climbed on top of this building, and you were drunk and you were like wandering around, and we were like, please get down. And you started, I'm not saying it's you know what I mean?
Oh, of
like
course,
when
no.
I just say this, but you know, there was a fight that was occurring between you and another individual, and
yeah, I remember I kept saying, punch me, I want to be punched, punch me.
And then
I wanted him to hurt me.
I jumped
because of the self-destruction.
I jumped onto your back. Do you remember this bit?
It rings a bell, yeah.
I jumped onto your back, and I was fucking crying my eyes out. I was like, man, it's your brother. Like, it's your little brother. Please don't do this. It's Josh.
Yeah.
I'm here. Like, don't do this. And
did I try and stand up with you on my back, or stand up with you on my back?
Yeah, you tried standing up with you on my back, and then you said, get off me, I am going to bite you. 5, 4, and I was just sat there, and then this, that, and the other, and then you sort of you got me off the back and threw me off, and then you went off, and it got bad. Like, his t-shirt was ripped in half, and he was like, he wasn't even making sense English anymore, and basically an ambulance had to be called with the police to restrain you. And I feel so guilty, but I didn't go with you because I was a mess. I remember being in the middle of the road breaking down, because it was like we came so far, and then there was that,
like, it was almost like we have just gone back to the beginning.
We have, like, literally, it's like almost like you feel like you go back to square one again. And we didn't talk about this really. I think there's a few people that I mentioned it to, but yeah, it just it was really sad. And the one thing is, I remember I saw you the next morning, and you had like a black eye and all of this.
First black eye I've ever had in my life.
Really?
Yeah.
When we think about everything now, when we talk about this story, it all makes so much sense, doesn't it? From the thing, we'll come on to that, but it was such a surreal, just to experience that again, and obviously that meant that the group of friends I was friends with, who also wanted to accept Danny, couldn't understand why he did that. So then there was a situation where it was about, like, they were still friends with you, they were still mates with you, but it was like they were more kind of, do you see what I mean? Like, they were more kind of,
they were wary of allowing me back into their lives.
Yeah. They were like, keeping a slight distance.
Like,
but
obviously, because they, you know, they only had a small piece of the picture, I guess. You know, they didn't know the history and stuff.
And it was difficult to kind of sort of bring them round to that, because then people at that point just go, oh yeah, he's mental, or this, that, the other, he's broken, or blah blah. And I just put me dis-ease because I was just like, I'm getting pulled this way, and I could see that our relationship had started to go through turmoil as a bit of a result.
Yeah,
And
although
then,
it was quite mild, wasn't it, at that stage? Because you're like,
it was very mild.
you can't do alcohol, man. You can't
that
do
was
alcohol.
it. I remember going back to you and saying, no more alcohol, and I was really was quite aggressive about it, wasn't I? Because I think I was just
of course,
scared.
yeah, because you had a self-protection defense and a fear taking over and going, no more, and protection mode, of course.
And then,
then I stayed off alcohol for a very long time
for a very long time until
and then the same cycle happened. Of course, when I explained the cycle earlier about the mind tricking me into believing it's okay to drink, I wasn't aware that my mind was doing that at the time. This is something I've realized more recently, that's what my mind does. Tricks me into believing it's okay to have one and then two and so on.
It literally does, yeah. Because
so then the same thing happened again because of obviously I hadn't realized at that point. We'd gone through a load of new different things. We'd rebuilt. We'd got strong again and loads of new learning and loads of understanding and way more life events had taken place and loads more positivity. We'd reached a new height of growth and strength and understanding. So, of course, got to the point where, I could have one drink. I could have two. And then it happened
so the whole
again.
thing repeated again, but this time it was not this. I remember I was getting a bit worried about you throughout the evening because you were getting more pissed, and I was like, okay, I'm getting a little bit nervous now.
I remember,
I remember having a conversation with you outside. And I was just like, you said, okay, you're telling me I shouldn't drink, so I'm gonna follow that. And you were very there was a point where you were like, I'm not going to do this because you've told me to. And I was really proud of you, and I gave you a hug, and I was like, I feel like we're making progress here. Life can be cruel sometimes.
Yeah, obviously that would have probably been the alcohol personality.
Yeah.
Sometimes I like to refer to as the demon, although that then I've learned over time that referring to that as a demon then almost relinquishes any responsibility from me myself. So I don't like to do that as much anymore. But although I still call it the demon, I accept that is a part of me and I am in control of that. Whereas obviously I used to believe that the demon had complete control and it did whatever it wanted and I had no control and it just,
So we go on to what I like to call the one that really pushed us to the limits was that night, because then after there is a number of difficult situations that surround that event, and there's a level of depth that I don't want to talk about on camera here because it involves other individuals, multiple people, and it's not right for us to say it. All we're trying to do is give you the framework here to sort of show it. It's difficult, but
a very
anyway.
quick and easy way to say it is I did something that I shouldn't have done, didn't realize what I had done, found out some more information that then made me go, oh fuck, shit, I was doing this thing, now I found out that I shouldn't be doing this thing, fuck, felt a load of guilt, and it went from there.
Yeah.
I think that's a very quick, easy way
it's a quick, easy way.
Yeah.
We were at my mate's house, and there was a couple of people. I think there was like 3 or 4 people there, and we were having drinks, and Danny was like in a just a really, really sort of all over the shop state, and he went into the bathroom, and I felt this fucking shiver down the back of my spine, and I went to a mate and I said, break down that door now, break it down now. And they were like, what the fuck? I'm not going to break down break down the fucking door right now. And so, bust down the door, and you were on the floor with a belt round your neck because you tried to kill yourself again. And this was late last year. And that really changed everything because I think I'd never seen that before, and I think there was a lot of emotions that came up in me, and there was a lot of emotions that came up in you. And the next day, I started to realize how cruel this thing was in Danny, because I realized it wasn't Danny. But what it would do is, like, it was designed to trigger you. It was designed to make you fucking hate the thing inside him. It's cruel. It is beyond cruel. Because it's not Danny. But it's very good at knowing how to just fucking rip your heart in two. Really good. And I remember we got home and that's when things started to break down between us.
Yeah.
Because
we were just two different people in two very different places, and it's almost like we couldn't feel that connection anymore.
No.
It's like it had snapped it.
It was. I remember saying to you, this is, things have changed now. Like, things have changed.
Yeah.
I
remember you said, I'm going to have to take the business forward from here, and think it's best that, you don't know, take some time for yourself and whatnot. Yeah. But I'll handle things from here from now on. I remember that.
And and there were people who were advising me, focus on yourself, Josh. Focus on yourself. Don't focus on Danny. Let Danny go. Just focus on you. And my head was all over the place at that point, because there was part of me, but there was still a part of me that saw him in my life, and I was so conflicted. And I think we went through a really dark period where we lived on opposite ends of the flat, barely spoke to each other.
I just lived in my bedroom all day, every day.
Yeah.
I remember just feeling so strongly, like I just wanted to get the fuck out of here. I just wanted to get out. I did not want to be here at all. And I was trying to find any way, shape or form to just find an escape and just go anywhere but here, kind of thing. But
I think you decided to go away, didn't you, for a bit?
But obviously back then I didn't have my own car, so it was very challenging, and obviously I couldn't go, by the way, Josh, can I borrow your car, because I'm going to fuck off.
Yeah. I was
questioning whether I should disappear and not come back. I was having all sorts of dark negative thoughts about just going and hiding in the woods and throwing my phone in a lake and just disappearing and living off the land in the woods, and so that I was untraceable to anybody ever again. I was in a real deep dark place.
Yeah, and it lasted like that for a long time, even over Christmas. It was it over Christmas or was it before? No, it was over Christmas as well. There was still a bit
New Year.
And I remember at the time something odd happened when someone tried to share a piece of information with me, but said, keep this between us, don't tell Danny. And I snapped. I was like, don't you fucking dare. Don't even dare. And I'd never seen me act that way before, because I've always been very, very softly, won't hurt a fly. But
very passive. Yeah.
I just flipped. And I thought, wow, I've never felt that before. Like, really kind of like caught that and just gone, no. And then I spent a lot of time reflecting. And at the beginning I was like, how could you do this to me? Like, how, like, it was all about me. How could you hurt me like this? Why would you do this to me? Why would you do this to the people around you? Why would you do this to them? And all of this kind of stuff. And then it made me realize I used to say a phrase which is regarding forgiveness. And forgiveness is one of the most powerful things on the planet, because forgiving someone is to, I think, understand that even though people do bad things, it doesn't mean they're bad people. And I really started to sit, and we had a chat, and then I kind of realized it wasn't about me. My ego made it about me, but it wasn't about me, and it wasn't about how he hurt me and about all of this. It was about the fact that he was still struggling with this thing, and I had to get over that fact that I thought it was an attack, or it was a, like he just didn't care about our future, or all of this kind of stuff. Because I remember at the time saying, I can't control it, and you're like, and all of this, and I just got so frustrated because I was like, oh right, so you can just do it then. You can just do it and just do it again and again and again, but you can't control it. It was along the lines of that, wasn't it? And yeah, but I sat down with you, and then eventually I forgave you and said that I forgive you for doing that. And I think there was a mutual kind of forgiveness there, and you forgave me, and you were patient with me as I absolutely lost my shit. And it got things really, really tense. And
I remember really having to just take a step back and just let you process all those stages of emotions and let you feel them, and not try and keep coming in and going, please, it'll be okay, we're going to fix it, and try and come in and try and fix it and
I think there was
force outcomes.
There was always parts, wasn't there, where it was like, there was a part of me that was like angry at you, but there was also a part that was like, we can rebuild. There was always like, it was sort of this tear between the two, but it was, yeah. And I think when we hit that, then things changed permanently, because we found a new level of love and respect for each other that we hadn't really experienced before. And as you can see, I mean, there's a lot of detail that could be in there, but what is the point of all of this? And how does that tie to doing the lives recently and over the last couple of weeks and our heads firing off? Is because we've basically come to somewhat of a conclusion, I guess.
Yeah.
About how Danny and I have always seen what each other are deep down. And even when life has, Christ almighty, wedged things between us and made things so difficult and pushed us apart, we would always find ways to come back together. And we realized that the only way we managed to do that was love. Because some people talk about love, and some people talk about love at how it's just this thing, it's not important, or it's just love and peace and happiness. No. Do not underestimate the force of love. Because the force of love will break you out of who you are conditioned to be to who you really are. And the thing that we've noticed is our entire experience and in our entire lives, we have been tested to realize that actually this is what it brought out in us. This is what it taught us, because we always decided not to react how other people reacted, no matter how strong it felt like we should have, or go by of other people's opinions. We decided to always try and keep our mind as open as possible. And I'm gonna run off for a sec. Do you want to talk about how this recently, why this, why we're talking about this now, and what's happened over the last couple of weeks?
I find
you're detail oriented.
This is the problem, is that because I'm so detail orientated, I could only explain the details of each individual part as and when they get brought up. It's so big and so much has happened. I can't even build a mental image in my
At
mind.
a high, I'm going to say at a high level, I think we finally found a purpose in who we are as people. Which has been coming for a long time. And yesterday we had a moment yesterday evening, and it became so clear. But what I'm going to ask, if you guys are still here, please just drop a comment. And
I don't know if we're just.
I'm so scared to
sitting
like
here
people
talking to ourselves.
I know. I just like. I'm just. Oh yeah. My head is just like freaking out based off everything we've just kind of talked about. And
it's the one time I'm going to give into my ego a little bit and say,
society that anyone with mental health addiction that is normal to dispose of anyone who bring drama. Yes, 100% Sutha. Do you want? I'll be back in a second. Dan, do you want to just have a question and answer with Danny for a sec? Get any questions in. If you're still here, please say you're still here. We don't like. We're just. Yeah.
And please just let me know you don't think I'm a fucking arsehole. Also, please, for my ego.
And please. You're
that's the problem.
I feel like the fucking arsehole. I feel like the fucking arsehole for always thinking about it was me and not caring about you in the way that I should have. You know what I mean? That's how I feel like fucking awful about that.
I feel like I guess it's because of there is a stigma out there, you know, a societal belief that, you know, suicide and whatnot is very selfish. A selfish way out and all that kind of thing. And it does make me feel so selfish and guilty that how could I not think about the people around me in that time? But when I try and think back to what I felt at that time, it's almost like nothing else around me existed except this voice in my head saying, fucking kill yourself, you know, in this demonic way. It's like you haven't even got the capacity to think about existence in itself. It's just you and this kind of demon inside you saying, do it. You don't deserve to be here. Like, it'll say so much stuff. It says, you know, it's managed to convince me in the past that I am unwanted, unworthy, I have no purpose, I am useless, unloved, never will be loved. Everybody's lives would be better without me in it, until the point where those thoughts circle so much that you are unable to even think about anything else or anyone else around you that might be able to snap you out of it. You become completely consumed by this idea that you are nothing but a worthless piece of shit. And then it eventually grabs you and you become convinced. Eventually you become convinced, and I would spend days and weeks consistently from the moment I woke up to the moment I went to sleep arguing with this thing in my head. Trying to fight back and say, I have got purpose. I am supposed to be here. But eventually it would always win, especially when I drank alcohol, because those thoughts were so strong that I would try to drink to escape them, but all it did was strengthen them eventually. And then that's it. The darkness consumes you, and you're in. And then it does feel like it takes control, and it just does it on your behalf.
Good.
Yeah. I was trying to explain, because obviously not everybody's been suicidal in life. So for those that haven't been and been there, I was just trying to paint a picture of kind of what it was like for me, and maybe it'd be similar for other people that are suicidal, so that they can maybe gain a bit more insight and understanding as to what it's like in that moment.
It's horrible.
Obviously, as I tried to share it, I had to raise a lot of the emotions again that I felt at that time, and it was just nearly got me, but I'm not letting it out. I'm not letting it out on a live.
It's okay. It kind of the let's talk about a little bit about how we've both been a little bit odd in life.
Yeah. I still am.
And it's funny because
a little bit odd.
Yeah. It's funny because we always felt like we didn't fit into the world that we were put in. I've always been a massive dreamer in school. I wouldn't focus on the here and now. I keep seeing a world in my head, and I can't get rid of it, and it's there every single day, and it's a world that doesn't look like this one. Doesn't look like this one. It's a world where there's more of this. It's a world where there is understanding, compassion, awareness, care, love, understanding. And when you're growing up in society and people are teaching you what the real world is like, you just feel you're mental for thinking such things, that life could even be that way. You know, could there be peace? Could there be all of this kind of stuff? And Danny, you know, you were very detail oriented.
Yeah, I was detail oriented, and probably too present. I have always lived a life of not liking being told what to do. So in school, instead of focusing on schoolwork and whatnot, it was like, no, it's my life. I'm going to do what I want. And what I want to do right now is graffiti on my workbooks. So I'll just sit through the entire lesson graffitiing, drawing, doodling caricatures and all sorts of things like that. Because the school wanted to try and educate me for my future. And I can't see into the future, and I don't particularly. I said, well, what if the future will be what the future will be? I can't change the future because I'm not there yet. I'm here now, you know. So I'm going to do what I want right now. So this is the polar opposites between Josh and I.
So yeah, we started to realise. So the first thing that we realised is we're soulmates. We're soulmates because we had a moment a few weeks ago where we felt like actually we've been on a journey before, and it both connected in our heads at once. We didn't understand how we have synchronized beatboxing. We didn't understand how there was all this thing, and it's also quite bizarre. Normally, for like, you wouldn't think like your brother's soulmate. You'd think you'd have a wife or a girlfriend or all of this kind of stuff.
Yeah,
but
I guess most people, when they think soulmate, they automatically attach the perception that's lovers. That's what lovers are. Lovers are soulmates. But it's soulmates is just another person on this planet that you're connected to.
Yeah, soulmates bring out the best in you. Soulmates teach you deep lessons, and you carry each other. I find that's the thing. But we're direct opposites in every single way, and we are both very, very super analytical and very, like, when we've gone through life, we don't just go, oh, it's life. We're both very, very deep thinkers. So we look at our behavior, we look at our instances, we look at everything. We analyze life in levels of complexity that it's hard to articulate, but it explains why we manage to make the content that we do or bring out the messages that we do. Is because kind of like this is what we talk about all the time. And we noticed that our entire journey has been us seesawing back and forth
and battling each other
battling
to try
each
and
other.
get the other to think
like
our way.
Yeah. So either getting Danny to think like me or Danny trying to get me to think like him.
Yeah.
And we've realized that we are a equilibrium and we balance each other.
Almost like yin and yang.
Almost like yin and yang.
Life is balance. Life is duality.
Life is duality.
Imagine. So the conclusion we came to is, why are we trying so hard to constantly meet in the middle and merge, and me become a little bit more like him and him become a little bit more like me? That would be like taking the yin yang and painting it all one color. It wouldn't be a yin yang anymore. There would be no more balance.
No, because for balance to be achieved, you have to respect the individual parts of the balance. And this is the thing that
taking all the left and rights out of life and only ever going straight.
The reason why we find it quite interesting with the yin yang is because we have basically, people see yin yang as good and evil, but it's not good and evil, because actually if you look at both of our lives, I have never really hurt a fly, got into a fight, done anything against the law. I have a clean record, like whiter than white. Danny, on the other hand,
have led a bit of a chaotic life. Always fought back bullies and got into lots of fights and been arrested, and always been a kind of fuck the law kind of person, anti-authority, and climbing construction sites and cranes and whatnot, drifting cars. Obviously in safe places. I do consider other people's safety. But the one thing I really notice in my chaotic life is I'm really starting to realise that every time I've ever tried to... Because obviously yin and yang have their majority and that tiny piece inside them. And obviously, yeah, you're mostly love, clean, passive on the majority, but obviously you have that tiny little bit inside you. Like the time we went boxing, that little bit of aggression did come out, and it's like, whoa, what is that? Where's that come from? It's in you, deep in there, but the majority of your outside is constantly, love, passive, etc. Whereas I am sort of chaotic and dark by nature, but deep inside me, the little dot is love. And I've tried so many times throughout my life to love, but all I accidentally end up doing unintentionally is causing destruction and chaos everywhere I try to love. And that's quite hard to deal with.
Sophie said, talking about yin and yang, did you guys purposely choose the black and white t-shirts to reflect yin and yang in you both? Yes. Which also matches Danny's drawing for this video. Yeah, and it was an amazing drawing.
Thank you.
This is where, so basically we've realized that it's about balance and equilibrium, and there are things happening to us now that we can't quite explain. Really, if we think about what we're here to do, is we think that if we combine the vision that I see and I've seen my entire life, and Danny combines the detail and making sure that things are we stay present so we don't fly off into any direction, then
making sure the things happen in the here and now, and you're looking after our future, because I can't look into the future. I don't know where I'm going to be next week.
We used to,
and I don't care.
Yeah, you used to. It's like I used to feel weird for looking into the future. It's a very odd feeling seeing like the future constantly just implanted in your head all the time, just like random flashes. It's quite a bizarre feeling, but and the thing is I would always go to, can't you see it? So.
We used to get a lot of frustration. Can't you see? Why can't you understand it?
See a lot of.
I don't want to. Why can't you be able to be present and live here right now? Look at what's around us, man. Look at what we've got. We're just constantly battle. And I was trying to make him see my way, and he's trying to make me see his way. We realised we just have to learn to embrace
who we are.
And it's okay.
Yeah.
And I'm not wrong, and I'm not too far one way. That's just who I am. And he's not wrong, and he's not too far one way. It's just who he is. But together we balance each other out. So if he starts to go a little bit too far into the future, I'll just bring him back a little. And if I go too far present where, I'm not even making plans for the end of today or tomorrow to get anything done whatsoever, because I'm just going to live spontaneity, and I'm just going to chase a butterfly, as your analogy. He just goes, well, we have got a little bit to do towards the future. We're going to have to get some work done to move this forward a little and get ourselves to the end of the week. It's just balance.
Yeah, I think we're hitting levels of new levels of self-acceptance.
Yeah.
That neither of us, and it only came when we found each other. And the funny thing is I always talked about twin flames and soulmates and all of that. And we didn't even realize what we were doing to each other and how we kind of connect. But now, after that, like, our lives feel completely different. And we believe that we are here to help as many people as possible reach the same state in their lives. Some people might, it feels weird when I say that, because some people might just be like, oh, fucking hell, but it's clear for us, because what triggered all of this is we saw what's going on with the world, and COVID-19, and we talked about how the world is changing, and now it's kind of
again.
Now it's kind of at a point where that's all right. We're like, are we going to help? Are we going to do our bit for that? And so I think we know why we're here. It's a very bizarre feeling. It's can't explain what it feels like to find your purpose in life and really kind of connect with it. Because when we look at everything we've gained, they talk about there's no mistakes in life, there's no mistakes in the universe, nothing's a coincidence. My entire life I've been seeing synchronicities. I've seen patterns interwoven throughout life, coincidences which are beyond coincidences. And it's really scary admitting this kind of stuff, because my head is going like, it's that ego part that goes, you're mad or you're crazy for thinking so, but we just can't see it any other way. I can't see using my life any other way than to help as many people as possible find who they are and allow them to experience life in a way that makes them happy and content with themselves. Because at the end of the day, we're brought up in a world where we have to force ourselves into other shapes and other molds, where we have to become someone else. And actually the lesson in my eyes is very clear. Yourself already exists. The journey you should be on is the one to self-acceptance, to realize who you are, to realize how you're built, to realize that the way you're built is okay.
Yeah.
And to understand that life is so much bigger than it's ever been made out to be before. And I think now more than ever, people are starting to realize this. And so on record now, I know from my side, I commit the rest of my life to that mission. Because it's always been in my head. I always felt
commit
like
to helping today.
And that's the thing. We used to like. It used to be like, but he can't. We're starting to realize, like, for some reason, I have these flashes of the future, and he's in the present, and I can't. I sometimes got a taste of the present, but when some people might have seen on the live yesterday, I left because I forced myself to be in the present all the time, and realized that I'm not made up to be that way. Like the sensations are too strong. Like the way my head analyzes things, it just makes me crash. But when we can respect both sides.
Yeah, sometimes you try and pull me into the future and go, can't you just see it this way? Think about this and think about that, and that goes there and that goes, and this would be like this, and this would happen like this. And I'm like, I just need time to process, please.
So
we battled it out for so long, didn't we? And then went, oh, wait, no, we're supposed to balance each other.
Yeah.
Oh, like yin and yang.
Yin and yang. We don't know. I've seen flashes, so-called, of the future in my head. It seems what's strange is because I focus on the architecture, I see the bigger picture in life, but I struggle to focus on the details. So I struggle to see what's going on, like the detail in things. But I see a narrative. I've always seen a giant narrative in life. And I think that's also given me the ability to be so self-reflective and tie parts of my life back together. Whereas Danny is very, very detailed. And you sometimes we've had like, there's been times where it's just like, I see this happening today, or like almost what you would call psychic or whatever, but it happened. And it was so bizarre. So we're starting to realize that actually our lives are not important, in the fact that what you shouldn't focus on here is our lives of Josh and Danny. What you should focus on is our actions and apply it to yours. Because
if you want to,
if we're not forcing anybody, we don't want to force people. We don't want to go like, oh yeah, you should be doing this and you should be doing that. Like that's how we balance each other in a way.
But if there is a big, deep part inside you yearning to try and understand who you are, where you're going, what you're doing, why you behave in certain ways, and so on and so forth, hopefully you found some inspiration in this story, and you're then able to start your journey or reach out to us.
We want to be here and available and open for anybody who's intrigued.
Yeah, anything to do with self-awareness.
And I appreciate some people may not. Might not
dig it.
Might not dig it at all.
Even if it's something like, I just want help dealing with my anxiety. Great, no problem.
We've spent our entire we spent the journey together, super analyzing everything, and we always felt mad for doing so. People would say, "You're so deep, but we feel like we've gone through that because now it allows us to be able to share it with other people. Like, that's the only thing that's important here. Like, it's not about our success or our careers or our personal lives.
Just want to help people.
We just want to help people.
Yeah.
And that's it. So, yeah, that's where we're at in terms of...
I think that pretty much brings everyone up to speed. Of course, we are still learning, still growing. We still get new revelations on a regular basis.
Of course, you're
still
always
got
still
so
learning
much to
and-
work out.
Yeah.
So much to work out.
Like we're starting to. What's strange is as we started to do that, like we're going between this state now where we feel like it's very odd, but like there are things in us are changing, and therefore like it feels like we're being supported more, if that's the best way to say it. Like when we go and do something creative now, Danny, you can just like go, and it's almost like he's not doing it. It's like it's being moved through us, and that's
ever since you showed me Eckhart Tolle and the presence thing, how to become present in the creative process. I'm like, it all makes sense now. So I take myself to a present place and just all I'm telling myself is just draw one line. That's all I need to do. No result. No projected outcome.
Release what you know. Release what you know, because the more you release what you know, the more you will see what's in front of you. And the thing that we're all chasing in life is inside us, but we are stuck in a system designed for us to chase away from it rather than towards it, rather than to focus on ourselves, focus on others. And when we look at the situation of COVID-19, where we're all stuck in self-isolation, of course, it's going to change things drastically, because people are going to think very differently about themselves if they decide to invite themselves to do that. If you anyway, we'll probably just stop talking. I appreciate that. If you want to say anything at this point.
Wow, it's 110 minutes we've been going.
Yeah.
And I still feel like we only just scraped the
There's-
surface.
I think there's
just about got enough of the points.
like life happens in layers, and we kind of we're so over analytical, we kind of see everything like this, like bang 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 bang. Like we see synchronicities in like the logo, we see synchronicities in so many different parts of our life, and how our conditioning has forced us together. Like we see it as like I see it as one big architecture, but Danny understands the finer details, and it's kind of like to cover it all on here would be incredibly challenging to keep it, but I feel like what's been said today is what needed to be said.
I do feel satisfied with the amount. Hopefully, I'm satisfied with the amount if the people are satisfied with the amount.
I hope that. Have you guys got any questions? We're going to stop talking for a second, because I appreciate that. Like we've just been going for how long?
It says 111 minutes we started streaming, so that's
hour and
good
at maths, aren't we? Hour and 50.
So an hour and a half would be 90 minutes.
Hour and 50.
And an hour, 2 hours would be 120 minutes. So it's an hour and 51 minutes. Yeah. Fucking hell. Oh, now we have to put explicit content on the video, don't we? Because I just did that.
Oh, I swore earlier.
Oh, okay. So it's your fault then.
Whoopsie daisies.
No, joking.
Guys, I hope that's useful. Again, we're just kind of in a state where it feels like we're not. What's the best way? We don't decide what we do. Something else is deciding for us, and we just have to follow it. It's a very.
Yeah, I sometimes sort of feel that, but I'm finding it. I've just realised how close I am to the microphone. I was rubbing my moustache on it. I struggle to work out like when a thought is mine or not. You know, I'm really trying to learn like when am I getting a gut instinct and or like a universal message, or
I think it will come over
when
time.
is my brain forcing ideas into my head? You know.
Yeah.
But I'm happy with where I'm at, and I'm not going to chase it.
And also,
we're not. It come.
Also, you have the freedom to have the opinions that you want on this. You know what I mean? Like, there's no right or wrong way to look at our story and what we've done. But hopefully, there's parts of it that resonate for you.
Yeah.
Hopefully. Oh, nice big stretch. Don't knock the sign off.
I don't see any questions coming through, so I think we should probably call it there, unless someone's typing a huge one. But
could be.
We'll give them 7 minutes.
7 minutes. That's very specific.
Well, because then that'll take it to a bang on 2 hours.
Okay.
Details, my friend. Details. Yeah. Oh, did we miss that comment up there? The next one up, Soother. Danny,
we did.
I've been there, and I completely understand exactly what you're saying. It's hard to give yourself love when you give yourself so much hatred. Yes, exactly. Yeah. So you completely understand. Yeah. I think that applies to the bit where you left the room for a moment, and I was trying to explain the dark hole of suicidal thoughts and what it's like to be trapped in, and how it feels.
Thank you. God, I'm shocking at the details, aren't I? Just give up. This is why my head gets so distracted, by the way. It explains, like, we've noticed that, like, it ripples throughout our entire life. So, for example, my head will just, like, float off, and I'll just move on to another subject because my head's like just floating just all the time, just burr, 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 burr. Whereas Danny's like in the here and now. But you've been trying to bring me back.
But I now that we've learned to embrace each other's different mindsets, and I find that we're able to embrace it, and then kind of, it's almost like I take little trips into your mind for a while, and sometimes you take little trips into my mind for a while.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, let's have a go at being present for an hour, shall we? And then you're like, let's go into the future for a bit and think about all of the things where this could possibly go, what it could be, and how it could work, and what it could look like, and what we might achieve, and And I'm like, okay, enough of that now. I'll come back down to earth. And then you're like, no, I'm off into the future again. Goodbye.
Yeah, that's the thing. And we start to realise, like, without each other, we'd both be lost.
Yeah. Well, all the time, obviously, before I met you, I would sit and be like, I want to be a businessman. I'm going to be a businessman. Right, I'm going to start a business. And then I'd intensely put every minute and every, like, ounce of energy I had into this idea, because obviously my spontaneity to be like, right, I'm going to start this now and I'm going to do it, and I'd start, and then obviously my attention to detail and my patience, and I'd be like, right, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, and I'm doing it, and I'd then get so lost in the detail of trying to get everything exactly the way I want it that it would never move forward, and I'd be like, oh, this isn't going to take me to my future, and then I'd drop it and start the next thing, and then I'd be intensely in that for the next 3 months or so.
Yeah.
And that's all I seem to do, is just flick from one thing to the next thing to the next thing to the next thing, and not really take anything anywhere into the future until
We've got a question from Soother. How do you feel at the start of the live to the end?
Oh,
I feel different.
I do feel different.
Yeah.
The beginning for me was just pure
terror,
fear and anxiety, and I was like, that's my ego, that's my ego, that's my ego, that's not me, it is me, but I mean, I don't have to resonate with those thoughts. It's okay, it's going to be fine. Project some outcomes, project some positive ones to overrule. And in the end, I don't know, I feel... It's an odd feeling, actually. There's a part of me that feels like there's a bit of a weight lifted. There's another part going, oh, God, how many people are going to see this and what are they going to think?
Yeah, my head's doing that loads. It's like, oh, my God, what if someone sat there right now just going, fucking hell, like...
What a pair of fucking bellends. Or something like that. Who the fuck do these Muppets think they are? Like, to them, I just want to say, I don't claim to be anything. I'm just trying to share a perspective.
Trying to share, like, this is how we feel. This is what we've been through, and that's all we can do, really.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for watching, though, guys. massively. It's been lovely to have. We're not sure who's still here.
Doesn't tell us, does it?
It doesn't tell
who's
us.
here and who's not.
It's annoying.
And thank you to the serial disliker for not letting me down. Because I said, I wonder if the serial disliker will come along. And I kind of had a little bit of hope that they would. Make my day. I love that's sometimes I do let myself float a little bit, and I start to think, I wonder who it is and what they're thinking and why and what makes them do it. Fascinating, like, because they do it right at the beginning of every video. As soon as we post a video, dislike. It's like, hang on a minute, that video is 4 minutes long. It's been posted for 1 minute. You disliked it already. Amazing.
Automatic conditioning.
I fucking hate you pricks, and I don't care what the fuck you made or what it contains. I fucking hate it because I fucking hate you bastards. And I don't know what we've done to who. If you ever decide one day that you would like to confront us on whatever it is that you dislike,
please,
feel free to just reach out, and maybe
feel
we
free
can
to drop
share
us
perspectives, and hopefully we can explain whatever it is that's
going through our heads, because we
disheartened you so much,
and
caused you to feel that you have to dislike everything.
It's all a matter of perspectives. We're made up
and
of
I
our
would be really
perspectives.
interested to hear their perspective and on how they view us. Because obviously they've got a negative perspective to have to dislike everything.
Maybe then we can help them.
Yeah, or maybe they'll help us.
Wow.
Maybe they'll help unlock new things in us, make
Very
us
true.
see a negative behavior that we have that we haven't realized. We could have a behavior right now that is really
Horrendous.
negative, and we're completely missing it and going, oh shit, yeah. And maybe they'd show that to us.
Anyway,
that's it. That's the 2 hours.
that's the 2 hours.
That's all for now, folks.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you again, everyone.
Honestly, you are just thank you for being here. And
I didn't see all
drop
those
us.
hearts earlier.
I know.
Yeah.
I will.
I think it's time to go rest the brain for a bit now,
Yeah.
after pulling all that up.
Goodbye.